Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, September 7th, 2022. Thank you. We have no minutes to approve, so if we can go into the public. For the record, Paula Hamilton at 44 Agawam Beach Road and Wareham MA3 Faring Hill have asked for a continuance until the 21st. If you're here for those, we will not be hearing those projects. Please. Denise. Oh, roll call. Introduce yourselves.
Denise Schultz.
Mike Marcia.
Sandy Slavin.
Carol Melanson.
And I'm Dave Pichette, the conservation agent.
Thank you. Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. on a request for determination of applicability for Lisa and Osmo Mitrano, trustees, care of Michael Mitrano, 131 Atlanta Drive, Taunton, Massachusetts, to replace and enlarge a shed and to expand a patio area located on Assessor's Map 50A, lots 126 and 127, 22 Barn Street and 51 Pleasant Street, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to represent this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I am Michael Matrano. I'm the son of Erasmo and Lisa Matrano.
And I am Lisa Matrano, and we also refer to my husband as Ray.
Okay. Mr. Pichette will read to the project, and then we will ask you to comment on it. All right? Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so this project site is at 22 Barn Street, and the project involves the replacement of a shed and the construction of a concrete patio within a coastal flood zone. An existing 10 by 10 foot shed is to be replaced with a new 9 by 8 by 14 foot shed on a concrete slab. Work had already started at this site in terms of forming the area for the proposed shed and patio. These features would add an additional amount of square footage of impervious area to this property. And the concern is additional runoff to neighboring properties, as these are very small lots. We did have an abutter raise a concern about this issue. So I would recommend that there be some accounting for that additional impervious area, such as some sort of dry well or stone trench to pitch the features toward, instead of pitching it towards any neighboring properties. And so this would be a recommendation that I would have for this particular proposal. I didn't have anything else further on it, and I'll wait for the commission's questions and comments as well.
Thank you. Michael, any comments? Anything to add? No, not you.
You, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think David did a very good job explaining the current situation here. Just to make sure we're clear, yes, we did start the project by demolishing the existing shed because it was in pretty tough shape. We went ahead and rough graded, formed, reinforced, and we're asked to hold off on pouring, placing concrete and releasing the shed for fabrication. It's important to note on the patio portion of the project that the intent was always to pitch the patio towards the yard. There is a dry well with a trench drain that's existing. It is a sandy soil over there, so it absorbs pretty quickly in general, but there is capacity for the added drainage. There was also, I just want to make it clear as well, if there is concern of water running off from the new patio, There's also alternates that we could do is, put some sort of concrete berm on top of the patio so that water runoff is retained into the property as a supplemental feature if needed afterwards. But it will be pitched.
Okay, Denise, questions?
Would you consider putting in something pervious instead of putting in a concrete patio?
Right now, the budget constraint would be for concrete, since it is the cheapest option and that we're already prepped. While it's certainly not off the table, it's just fitting for what's existing over there as well.
Michael?
Yeah, yes. These, now, I noticed on the application, it says 22 Bond Street and then 51 Pleasant Street. Is this, there doesn't need to be two applications for this, does there? Or is this the same owner? Because I'm not,
Yeah, so they are back-to-back properties.
Okay.
My parents are the trustee owners of both properties.
okay, I was just curious because I noticed in the past, we've had like a couple back-to-back properties where there was two separate applications. So I just didn't know if there had to be two different applications, or is this okay with just one? That was all.
Yeah, given this type of project and the common ownership, it's okay to do it under the one application.
Okay, that was just my concern. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carol?
Where is the existing dry well located?
So there's a trench drain on the existing patio, and it is right at the edge of it. There's a walkway that separates the existing patio to the new patio, and the trench drain is located there. So on your application, and I apologize for not pointing it out, it's a linear trench drain right here, and the dry well is at this inside corner.
Okay.
My question, will the shed have a water drain?
Gutters are down?
Gutters.
No.
So there's no way to redirect that? When you put the shed there, where is the roof pitching? Is it a pointed shed or a sloped shed or
So
the roof line?
it is a, I don't know why it's cut off on this, but on the
Oh, I
front,
saw that, yes.
on the front, it's going to have a gabled front with valleys pointing towards that
And
walkway.
what's on the back facing your
It's-
neighbor?
It's going to be pitched back. So, yes, we can add.
So if we ask you to put in gutters
And divert
and a
the
dry
water.
well to accept that rain pitching off of that shed,
Okay.
would that be all right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking at for something because there is a concern about water going into a neighbor's yard.
Sure.
And if you can put as much water on your property,
Absolutely.
there's less to run off. So I'm going to make a recommendation that you put in gutters and a dry well
Okay.
to accept the water off of that, the backside of that.
May I ask if I put in a underground pipe to receive the downspouts and then add it to the existing dry well?
Yes, I mean, it's just, as long as it doesn't flow off the backside of
Sure.
that into a neighbor's property, that would be fine. Some were looking for some alternative. So I will ask if there's any other questions. If not,
I have one-
Denise?
One more. The area between the shed and the neighbor's fence, that you're planning on putting concrete there?
Yep, so there was an impervious surface there previously. So we are just swapping it out from brick to concrete. And this is just it's for cleanliness, it's for ease of access, it's just a cleaner finish. We're trying to do a low-maintenance type of thing here.
Okay. Is there anything else? If not, is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Please come forward one at a time and identify yourselves.
Yeah,
Okay, Lisa, I'm going to ask if you could step back so they could have the 2 seats.
Do you want me to
Michael,
say?
you can stay.
Okay.
Please identify yourself,
I'm Lorraine Santola.
Carl Santola, 20 Bond Street,
okay?
neighbor to the left.
Can you just spell the last name for me?
Centola. So I have gone, since this house has been worked on, transformed, I have been to the town 2015, 16 through 22, and I've asked for the town for help. This land has been altered 20 inches from my property, and I have been,
What they did was they matched the property on Pleasant Street. The Bond Street property was lower, and they illegally filled the wet plains 18 to 20 inches.
And that was how long ago?
since 2017.
Yeah, we went to George and told him, and George has an obligation to tell the Conservation Commission,
George,
building inspector.
who was the building inspector that long ago?
George was the inspector and Dave Requena was the commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
He had an obligation, George, to tell the Conservation
Well-
Commission.
Didn't happen.
Exactly, but I went to the town for help.
Understand. So by indicating a berm at the back side of this patio and pitching the patio toward their property and handling the water runoff on the back side of the shed onto their property, that should reduce the amount of flow runoff into your yard.
But there was never a permit pulled on any of this stuff.
There's not much I can do about that.
Okay,
That's, building permits are are not part of conservation.
and here's additional pictures that look down from Google Earth. So what I'm looking for from conservation is help on how to protect the water from coming to my property, which also should be, I'm asking for, is a water flow analysis on how much water comes from that property to my property to 20, to 24, to 26, to where this water now flows onto. That should be paid by 22 Bond Street.
This is your property.
That's my property, the water.
How long ago was this storm?
2018.
And that was before the shed was there?
No, the shed was
Yeah,
always there.
Shed was
Yeah,
there.
the shed
There was an
there.
old shed that was there.
Yes.
They just took the shed down.
I know, but
2 months.
when this flooded, the shed was there.
Yes.
The old shed.
The old shed was there.
And now they're gonna alter 14 yards of concrete to this
And that, we
land.
said it has to slope away from your property into theirs with a French drain around it to absorb it so it doesn't flow back to you.
With that storm, there's already some kind of drain that goes into the street.
From what's,
The
who has a
downspout,
stormwater drain?
into the street.
They have a stormwater drain that comes from their property out to the front, which all drains come out to the front of the street.
Has the Conservation Commission gone to the site,
I was there today.
Yes.
project?
I was there
Yep.
today.
There.
Yes. I was there.
I visited it as well.
You visited. Denise did. Dave
And
did.
did you see the drains on the front of the property? The big drain that comes between my house and there that's coming right out into the street?
I did not notice that because I was focused on what the plans were for, so I went on Barnes, then I went over to the other
Pleasant.
Pleasant, where I met the owners, and they showed me what their work was being done. So, I mean, the intent is to try to reduce the flow into your property. You're going to make them do a berm on their patio, make it pitch the patio, put in gutters, and redirect the water from the shed onto their property.
What's going to be behind the shed? The 5 feet from the shed to the property line, what's going to be there on the ground?
I'm going to ask Michael, could you,
As I stated earlier, it's going to be a concrete pad.
a concrete pad between the shed and
And
the
the
lot
fence.
line?
Yep, yep.
Is there a chance you can put in gravel?
That's not going to pitch away.
I-
We're not
The concrete
asking-
won't. Concrete won't pitch away.
The
We're
the con-
talking, we're talking about the property behind the shed to your fence?
Right.
Okay.
They're not going to pitch the concrete towards the shed.
If I may add,
Could you just, how do you know? Have you seen the plans? Okay, then let Michael.
concrete is manipulable, so it can be pitched. It will be pitched. As you requested, we'll put downspouts in it and add it to the existing dry well. If you need to see some sort of, prior to placing concrete, that's fine. I mean, it's going to be pitched. The plan was to always have it pitched.
So my recommendation was going to be that, well, first of all, do you have further questions?
My question is, to raise my land as high as their land, I have to go through the proper channels of, we've had this conversation.
Right.
To raise my land 20 inches as high as their land, I have to go through the proper channels. What are my chances of doing that?
You would have to submit an application and have the commission review. I can't say what the outcome might be without seeing an actual proposal to look at.
Okay, because they didn't go through this channel, but I have to.
That's history, please.
No, but I'm
I
going to
can't-
have to do that.
Yes.
I'm going to have to do that.
I'll wait till, if there's anybody else.
Yeah, is there anything else? If not, I'll see if there's anybody else would like to comment on this project. I'm seeing none. Thank you very much.
So,
Picture's back right there.
The photo's right here.
right here. So what I would recommend to the commission is to continue the hearing to get an actual revision to the plan showing the items that the commission is asking for before taking the final vote. That way, you have something specific that you're approving versus conceptual without any detail. So do you understand? Well, I'm just making
Yeah,
that
I mean,
recommendation.
Yeah, and so that we'd like to see a cross-section would show the particular percentage of slanting that you're pitching that you're going to do for the patio
Okay.
behind the shed and
Dry wells.
and the dry wells for the runoff of
Okay.
the shed.
Okay.
Okay?
So-
I mean, that is an option.
So,
But no one else wants to comment? Wait a minute, Michael, your father. This work was started before it was permitted, so we will be looking at a fine at the next meeting.
Just explain to them.
no, they're aware. They understood.
They know.
Yeah.
It's a wall right next to the fence.
You,
The water
we
won't
can't
go
hear
on
you,
that
you
side.
have to speak into the microphone.
He's saying there is
Okay.
retention against the fence so that the water doesn't go to that side.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
He just wanted to make sure I made that clear.
thank you.
Um,
And there will be a fine for starting the work before approval,
Okay.
and it looks like a $200 fine,
Okay.
but we will discuss that when we have the hearing on the 21st. Does anybody would like to make a motion?
I move that we continue this hearing until September 21st.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain? We're continued until 9/21.
Okay. So,
We'll look for new plans.
okay, so that's what I wanted to ask.
Modification of the plans to show us the
the
pitch
slopes.
and the dry wells. Okay?
Okay. Okay. And then we'll be back here.
On the
Yes,
21st.
on the
Very
21st.
good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Night. Next hearing, please.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, at 6:30 PM. On request for determination of applicability, Jason and Edith Nelson, trustees, Nelson Realty Trust, care of Cape and Islands Engineering, Inc., 800 Falmouth Road, Suite 301C, Mashpee, Massachusetts, to construct a single-family dwelling located on Assessor's Map 20, Lot 1019G, 8 Over Jordan Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing that project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering.
Last name one more time?
Dibb.
D-I-B-B?
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will read the project.
Do you have those revised? The revised plans?
We have revised plans. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
we
that's
can.
fine. That's plenty.
We'll share. We'll share. No. Take it back. Take it back. Thank you for staking it out.
This project site is at number 8 over Jordan Road, and the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling within a coastal flood zone. A 34 by 50-foot dwelling is proposed on a piling foundation within flood zone VE elevation 17, along with the proposed septic system. The proposed septic system would be a pump septic system and a nitrogen-reducing system, and the leach field would be approximately 270 feet away from the house. The lot will also have town water. The driveway would be a gravel driveway. None of this work associated with this project is in the buffer zone to any wetland resource areas. It's just the fact that it's within the coastal flood zone. So we have a revised plan in front of us that made some modifications around the septic tanks. So with that revision, I didn't have any further questions about this project and would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Thank you. Mark, anything to add?
I think Dave summed it up well. I think if you visited the site, you saw it is in a wide open field. And that's all I have.
Denise, questions?
They were talking, I think, at one point of putting a solar field somewhere out there. Where is that going in relation to all this?
That is, if you see Lot H, then Lot G,
Yeah.
it's on that Lot L,
Lot L.
right next to there.
That's what I thought. I was trying to figure out where I was when I was out there today. So this
The
is
lot-
going to be a solar thing.
Correct, so that's Lot G.
And then H, as you go towards the water, coming down over Jordan Street. It's on the left-hand side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, no questions, thank you.
Carol?
No questions, thank you.
I'm sure, I went there today and the road was blocked and go through the field, go through the field.
They
I
were
know.
putting in utility poles, which were upgrades for the solar eventually.
It was open in the afternoon, because Carmen and I went through.
Because it was, so I had to drive through the field.
Oh,
I'm glad
we went
I'm
through
glad I
about
had
1:30.
EV and not my car. Is there, I asked you for your comments. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak to this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is DJ Wilson. I'm one of the abutters. I'm at 168 Great Neck Road. I just had a couple basic questions. And one was, are these, I'm actually here for also the next, so, are these houses going to be built on stilts? It appears from the terminology in the abutters letter they are.
They will, yes.
Just, are you aware of the town's regulations for restricting days and times of construction, or is that not your bailiwick?
That's not really our bailiwick.
Who is it? Just
If there's such a code, it might be with the building inspector. I am not familiar with that.
Or in our bylaws.
okay.
I know
Yeah,
you're not
read
supposed to
those.
be able to start before a certain time when we were doing building, and you had to end by a certain time.
All right.
But it's not through conservation.
And then is it possible to have a covering over, there's a chain link fence dividing the two properties. I think you may have seen that. Is it possible to have a covering over the chain link fence just to keep down the dirt and the dust from coming our way and keep it intact? And in the construction site.
As they build the septic system close to your chain link fence? As they build a septic system, which is up to your property, right?
I don't know that answer. Is it? I haven't seen it. Okay.
This is an older one.
Not right up to it.
It's, see how far back it is? The green thing on the right side? Yeah, that's the septic system. That's an older plan, but it's the same concept. Okay. Anything else?
And if the Title V has been submitted, how many bedrooms will there be for each of the
I
two?
have no idea.
You don't know that?
Yeah, I can-
The
It's
board-
3.
The Board of Health would have that information as to the size of the house and the beds for the septic system. But he, Mark answered you.
3 for each is what you heard. Thank you. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank
right.
you.
Thank
Is there
you.
anybody else? I'm seeing none.
I move we close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed. Someone,
Move to accept the plans with
Negative determination number 2?
termination number 2. And then, are we going to ask for something along the chain link fence to keep the dust down?
we will just, it's an RDA, we can't really do anything, but we can ask Mark to put the message back, keep the dust watered and stuff like that to reduce the amount of dust. If you could accommodate that, we would appreciate it.
Second.
I have a motion, a -2, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 400. Done.
Thank you.
Hey, you might as well just stay right there. Next hearing, please.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, at 6:30 p.m. on request for determination of applicability for Jason and Edith Nelson, trustees, Nelson Realty Trust, care of the Cape and Islands Engineering, Inc., 800 Falmouth Road, Suite 301C, Mashpee, Massachusetts, to construct a single-family dwelling located on Assessors Map 20, Lot 1019H, 10 Over Jordan Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Please identify yourself as representing the project.
Again, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Bichette.
It's got revised for this one as well.
Oh, revised plans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll share.
So this particular lot is the next property over, the next lot over from the one we just reviewed. This is 10 Over Jordan Road, and the project is similar. It involves the construction of a single-family dwelling within a coastal flood zone. A 26 by 36-foot dwelling is to be constructed on a pile foundation, again in flood zone VE elevation 17. Also proposed is a septic system that is the same as the previous one, a pump system that's also a nitrogen-reducing system. And again, the proposed leach field would be approximately 290 feet from the house, further up the hill. This lot also would have town water, and the driveway is also proposed to be a gravel driveway. And again, none of this proposed work is in the buffer zone to any wetland resource areas. So again, I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Thank you. Mark, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Anybody like to comment on this project, or should I say ditto? Anybody else? to the same comments that were for 10, hold for 8, or 8 for 10. I get, oh, this is on 10, so whatever we did, 8. Okay. Questions on the board? Denise?
Just, are we going to ask again that you take care of the dust issue in the back?
No questions.
No questions.
I have none.
Move we close the hearing?
Accept the project, oh, no.
I
close
have
the
a motion to
hearing.
close the hearing and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Move to accept with a negative, determination of -2, and again, asking for keeping the dust and the dirt down.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. Please do not start any work until you get all your paperwork from Mr. Bichette.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Next one, Damien's. See, it's making you get up and sweep away.
It's good for me.
Ready?
Yep.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, at 6:30 p.m. Request for determination of applicability for the Family Pantry, Damien's Place Corporation, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, to construct a food pantry building, associated parking, access drives, utility, and stormwater management system located on Assessor's Map 56, Lot 1000B, 242 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Who is here to represent this project?
Chair Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering, representing Damien's Pantry this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette?
This project site is at 242 Marion Road, and this project involves the construction of a 5,000 square foot building with associated parking, access drives, utilities, and stormwater management structures. This application has been submitted to be in compliance with site plan review procedures, and so they need a determination from this commission about whether or not there's any wetland permitting that is needed on this site, and after review, the site is not within the commission's jurisdiction. So I would recommend the issuance of a negative determination number 1 and number 6, which state that the project in the site is not within the jurisdiction of state or local wetland laws.
Bob, anything to add?
No, Madam Chair.
Any questions? Denise?
None?
Michael?
In regards to, okay, I think you caught me a little off guard here. In regard to the project itself, or within just the wetlands?
It's
issue?
what we can do in conservation. There's no conservation approval needed for this project. This is just to confirm that there is no wetlands on the site so that the rest of the permitting can occur.
Just offer a point of information. So the project will be heard, I believe, next Wednesday, the 14th, before the ZBA, for anyone who's interested in the project.
You'll have to speak into, I can't hear you.
Wait, tell me where that meeting,
Well, it'll be the next Wednesday's meeting with the Zoning Board of Appeals in this room. It'd be a site plan review special permit for the project.
thank you.
Carol, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
I have none. Is there anybody here that would like to comment on why this is not involving conservation? Okay.
Motion to close the hearing?
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. What would you like to do, folks?
But if we don't have,
We approve the project with a 1 and a 6 determination.
a negative, what you want to do is move to issue a negative determination number 1 and number 6.
What did I say, 1 and 2?
No, it's one-
Boy.
Not
Say
sure.
6.
1
So
and 6.
moved.
So that's the motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? You get to move on to zoning. So every once in a while, we get one of these in which zoning says, hey, conservation, tell us you're not involved, and that's what we just did.
Had a bunch of
That's
questions
why I
about
was
it,
a
but
little confused.
that's not gonna happen.
I have to go to the board for that.
All right.
And there's another meeting. Ready?
Ready?
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, at 6:30 PM, on a notice of intent from Michael Fitzgerald, trustee, Scooter Realty Trust, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, to remove and reconstruct a parking and storage area, to remove a portion of a concrete retaining wall, to install a precast concrete berm and chain link fence, and to perform site grading located on Assessor's Map 61, Lot 1036, 367 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Please identify.
Madam Chair, Bob Rogers, GAF Engineering, representing Scooter Realty Trust.
Okay, before Mr. Pichette reads, I am a close friend with Mike Fitzgerald. If I leave the table, we will not have a quorum, so I will not speak during this hearing, and I will abstain at the vote. All right, so Mr. Pichette will read. Did I do that right?
Yes, we just need to have somebody designated to handle the hearing if you're not
Okay.
going to be speaking on it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, might not your disclosure of your friendship with the applicant also serve to negate the appearance of impropriety, since everyone, your actions would be your actions after disclosing, sometimes disclosure prevents a conflict of interest, if you will.
Okay,
Precautionary-wise, it's best for her just to abstain, so.
I'm not going to say anything, but I have to stay here for a quorum. I will vote abstaining.
Just putting it out there as a
Yes,
former
I know,
chairperson.
but if there was another person, I would have walked away, and
Sure.
that would have
sure.
been fine.
So the project site is at 367 Main Street, and this project involves the reconstruction of a parking area and the removal of a portion of a concrete wall within riverfront area, within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and within a coastal flood zone. An existing gravel parking area is to be reconstructed and regraded, and this is within flood zone AE elevation 14, and partially within the riverfront area of the Wankinko River, and partially in the buffer zone to wetland that exists on the other side of the railroad tracks from this site. The existing and partially overgrown gravel parking area would be stripped out so that new base material and surface material could be placed into that location as shown on the site plan. And the surface material is proposed to be recycled asphalt. A portion of the concrete retaining wall that exists there is to be removed, and that area to be regraded and incorporated into the parking area. Runoff from this area is going to be directed toward the low point, which is towards the rear of the building, which is where runoff currently goes. Again, this area is within the riverfront area, but it's considered a redevelopment project as this is a previously disturbed area. And you do have the elevated railroad track that runs between this site and the river. The existing paved driveway, which comes off of Main Street into the site, would be repaved as part of the project. And it's also proposed to place a precast concrete curb down the property line between the subject site and the property to the south. So currently, there is no curb there, so they're proposing to install that to separate the properties. We did get a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added condition that the parking lot remain as a pervious parking lot unless the applicant wants to come back in with a new notice of intent to discuss a change of the plan. But at this point, I would recommend a condition that this remain as a pervious parking area.
Just a couple of things. So the plans that you have, there's 2 sheets. The first sheet is straight existing conditions. So if you look at sheet 1, that's everything that's there today. It shows the existing retaining wall to be removed. There's some, it's a mess, really. It needs to be cleaned up. There's a lot of vehicles use this area, and so there's a lot of weeds and things, but basically it's a hard-packed gravel surface and some pavement and broken up pavement. There's a lot of cross-traffic between the properties, and so that's one of the goals of the project. So there's very little change in grade here because, as David stated, the existing material is being removed and all new material is to be brought in. The grading changes are, for the most part, limited to where the existing retaining wall is being removed. There's a desire to put precast concrete curbing right along the property line and with a chain link fence, and just to separate the 2 properties so that I guess there's a fairly constant counterclockwise circulation through the property, and so they want to be able to control their property, and the end result is a slight reduction in impervious from the removal of the existing asphalt. And I'll just answer any questions that you may have.
Carol, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mike?
No questions, thank you.
Is this, when I was down trying to figure out exactly where this was today, this is right by the firehouse? Because there's...
No, it's so, it's almost directly opposite, what's the...
Where Route 6 comes down to Main Street, correct?
Yeah, right. For a short section, it's a different street name.
There's a hairdresser's or something is over this way?
Yeah, so if we were heading past Town Hall and we hit the stop sign, if we drove straight, we'd almost go right down that driveway.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thoroughly confused because the GPS took me to the firehouse and I couldn't figure out where exactly it was supposed to be.
Yeah, so it's south of that new car dealership.
Okay, thank you.
6 comes down here.
Is anybody who needs to, would like to speak to this project in the audience? If not,
I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
Abstained.
Thank you.
We need a motion for the project.
Determination number 2?
Standard order.
The standard order of conditions.
Okay. I move that we accept this project with the standard order of conditions.
And that the parking lot remain pervious.
And that the parking lot remain pervious.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Aye.
Don't start any work until you see Dave.
Good job, Denise.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Number 6.
I have to be the fourth signature. Okay.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaws, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, at 6:30 p.m. on the notice of intent for E.J. Lonnie, RESI LLC, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass., to construct a pier with 2 boat lifts and floats located on Assessor's Map 4, Lot B, 42 Robinwood Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project?
Madam Chair, for the record, Bob Rogers, GAF Engineering, representing Resi LLC, and with me is Chris Anderson, who's a partner in this project. So the owner's representative.
Thank you. Mr. Burchett will read to the project.
So this project site is at 42 Robinwood Road, and the project involves the construction of a pier, ramp, and float system within land under the ocean, within land containing shellfish, within a coastal beach, and also within a coastal flood zone. A 184-foot pier, ramp, and float system with 2 boat lifts is proposed at this location as a common pier for the potential residents of a 7-lot subdivision at this same location. The overall length of the structure from the seawall is, again, 184 feet. There was a buoy placed in the water to indicate the location of the end of the proposed structure. And this would be 159 feet out from the high tide line. A boat lift is proposed on either side of the structure, closer towards the shore from where the floats are proposed, but they would still have approximately 3 feet of water at low tide at this location. The structure would require 28 pilings to be installed. These would be driven from a floating barge, which would have to operate at higher tidal ranges. The proposed float system is 300 square feet. There was an eelgrass survey that was conducted that found no eelgrass within the project area. But in looking at that, that was done over a year ago, so I spoke to the engineer and recommend that there be a verification that that information is still valid this year. We did receive comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries, who had several comments on the project. They state that the project lies adjacent to mapped shellfish habitat. They recommend a time of year restriction on construction from May 1st to July 31st for any in-water work on the project to protect sensitive life stages of horseshoe crabs. They also recommend float stops be installed if this project is approved. That would be keeping the float 30 inches above the bottom. And they again commented on any barge working at the site not work at low tide or in waters less than 2 feet deep. The floats as proposed do meet our bylaw standard as they are 300 square feet or less. We did not receive comments at this point from the harbor master on this project. We did get a DEP file number, but I would recommend a continuance of the hearing at this time for the verification of the eelgrass information and for comments from the harbor master on this project.
Thank you. Bob, anything to add?
So you would take the lead as far as reaching out to the harbor master?
Yes.
And then as far as the verification of the absence of eelgrass, sometimes we do this with our survey personnel. I did ask Tommy to look when we set the buoy out, but are you looking for Brad Holmes to go back and verify?
I would prefer that just because he did the original review, and I want to make sure he's looking at the overall area and not just where the buoy happened to be dropped.
Right, yeah, no, he understands the bylaw, and so for sure he goes out, 75, 100 feet beyond where we show the floats to be, so that's acceptable. We'll set that up with Brad.
Okay.
than the float stops, so we've got 3 feet. We've got a little more than the 30 inches right now, but it certainly doesn't hurt to put the float stops on those pilings. So we'll just do that.
Anything else?
Nope.
Questions? Denise?
When I was reading the Mass DMF recommendations, it talked about 3 new proposed floats appear to be greater than the size needed for the water access and vessel dockage space. How is that affected here?
I'm not sure what that comment was specifically referring to, whether or not they recognize how this pier is being proposed, but in terms of our bylaw, which restricts it to 300 square feet or less, it does meet that particular standard.
Okay. How many houses are going to be utilizing this dock?
So it'd be 7.
Are there going to be 7 boats associated with this dock?
Well, so we don't have lot owners right now, so we don't know how many boats we would have, so we've set up the pier with the 300 square foot of floats, just because it is intended to service 7 home owners. Some may have a couple boats, some may have no boats. We don't know, but it's certainly the property.
It just looked like a really small area in between the other 2 docks that are existing there for 7 boats to be pulling in and trying to
Well,
utilize this
sure,
dock.
nothing happens all at once, unless it's the Mattapoisett Boat Parade, which I witnessed a couple of weeks ago. So with the float configuration that we have, you can see, 2 on the outside, 2 on the inside, 2 boat lifts. That's 6 boats. Now, the 2 on the inside would be smaller boats. So, we can only apply for and get a permit for what meets the bylaw. And so if it's only ends up with 4 boats or 5 boats, it is what it is in that regard. We're not trying to go the maximum 200 feet out in order to tie up more boats on the side. We're not trying to do 4 boat lifts. I think we've got something that's reasonably appropriate and approvable, for this property and this location.
What happens if you get 7 houses that want 7 boats on it? I mean, how are you going to restrict?
Well, they'll
how
have
it's
to shake that
utilized?
out. There's going to be a homeowners association.
Okay.
And again, you don't know who the owners would even be at this point. So it's not like other docks where you have someone who already has a boat and they live there, and it's a single family, or maybe it's a different association, but you have people who can speak to what they own and how they would share the use of it.
Also, they were talking in the notes about shellfish being relocated. How is that accomplished?
Well, in my experience, cohogging, you can just move it over 10 feet. So basically the 5-foot width of the pier before the pilings go in, and hopefully the harbor master or a shellfish officer would be present. You would basically just harvest the cohogs in that area, and if the town wants them to go somewhere else for transplanting, that's fine. But you can just as easily take 3 steps, move them over 10 feet, and just put them right back in the sand.
But how do you account or take into account the horseshoe crab seeding or spawning area that they're talking about?
Sure. Well, they are recommending a time restriction for the construction so that we would avoid construction during those periods.
Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, not a whole lot this time. The only thing I'll say is I just agree with Denise that it seems a dock for 7 boats when there's already at least 3 docks already right next to it, and it seems like an awful lot, so I'll say.
Yeah, again, I would phrase it as that it's a pier to service 7 homeowners, and how they shake it out is up to them.
I get that. It just seems like an awful lot this time, so anyway, that's all I got this time, and at this time, we'll see at the next meeting, so anyway, thank you.
Carol?
No questions at this time, thank you.
The C-shaped dock, what is the distance between the outer docks?
So it's 20 feet inside width.
Okay, so you're looking at maybe 2 small boats tied up in there? It's 20
Right.
foot is not a, it's
Sure.
not a, sorry.
Yeah,
It's a small area to put 2 boats side by side.
And maybe it could only be one.
Will there be, can we restrict the size of the boats that are on these things?
Yes, the commission does have the ability to place restrictions or conditions on the size of boats or how many boats might ultimately go on there. So that is an option that the commission can consider after you're done with your review.
You know, Mr. Madden, based on his experience, felt that the 25-foot-long floats on the outside, so at least you could get a couple of 30-footers
30-footers in there
on the outside.
with springers and everything, yeah.
You know, we did a lot of different iterations, if you will, of the float configuration. You know, the key is to stay at or below the 300 square feet. You know, if in the future, for whatever reason, someone wanted to apply to reconfigure them, they could apply to reconfigure, you know, as long as it stays under the 300 square feet.
Now, I noticed there were 2 kayaks or personal water-propelled craft up on the beach. I mean, is it something I'm expecting that if we do approve this as it stands, I'm going to say nothing is stored on the beach in any way, shape, or form. So if they want to use that 20 feet between the 2 poles to put in their kayaks and canoes and stuff like that, I'm going to recommend we put nothing on that beach area. Just, I know you're not, but I just going to say that it's, to me, it's more than a dock. It's what's around the dock, but, okay, that's me.
No, they've got a wonderful yard area that I'm sure in the future, if it's a kayak rack or something like that,
They
that
can do it
use the
upland.
Right, and because, as Dave and I saw when we were out there, you know, you get all of a sudden a moon tide or maybe a storm or something, then there goes your kayak, you know.
It goes bye-bye.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Nothing else? Chris, did you want to add anything?
I'm good, thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience would like to speak to this project? I'm going to be clear. This is conservation and the dock only, nothing else. Please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lisa Fast. I'm a neighbor. I live on Sias Point.
Excuse me, Lisa, can you spell your last name
F-A-S-T.
and the address where you live?
I'm at 13 Sias Point.
13. Thank you.
Okay.
Before I speak, let me give, who's the record keeper? This has got local signatures. These don't have all. And I'm not going to read all this. I'm just going to
Okay,
give an
Thank you.
abbreviated version.
we'll share.
Okay. I got plenty of this.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll take another one. Thanks.
Okay, so, first of all, Reese's application just should be denied. It fails to provide information required by bylaw 16B, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 16C6. These refer to the methodology of construction, and although I heard tonight something about a barge, when I was going through the materials that, at least as of a couple days ago, I thought had been submitted, I didn't see any reference to a barge. So if that has been submitted, okay. In addition to the methodology of construction, they do not seem to address seasonal storage, soundings, and the proposed number, type, and style of watercraft. And this is something that, of course, they have just discussed and you have been discussing. And they may say that they don't know. It's their burden of proof to show that there is not going to be a significant and cumulative negative impact. And not knowing is not a good enough excuse. In addition, the fact that they don't know is just another reason to deny this application. It is premature. It is putting a horse before the cart. I'll get back to that later. Even if RISI corrects all of these deficiencies in their application, you should still deny it. This is a very active recreational area. Walkers, dog walkers, swimmers, paddleboarders, kayakers, fishermen, shell fishermen, both commercial and non-commercial. RISI, as you've heard, wants this project, this dock, to be available to 7 residences. I would term them McMansions. I'm sure they would take exception to that, but these are 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath McMansions. Is there a limit here of 7 boats? There isn't. How many boats can they put here? They don't say. It's not just the addition of this large pier that ought be prohibited. No further pier should be allowed. There are already 7 piers with floats and a couple with lifts that are on that side of Sias Point. Already 7 piers. And I really ask you to seriously consider, once again, the directive of significant and cumulative impact. Not only does this application really address mitigation of that kind of impact, it doesn't talk about mitigation of the use of the pier either. And I think that's something you have every right to consider. Takes very little imagination to think about how many cigarette boats, how many fishing boats, how many water ski boats, how many picnic boats, and then add to that what seems to be inevitable these days, jet skis and sea-doos. The turbulence in the water, the gasoline and the oil spills, the detergents and solvents that will get washed into the water. That, plus the air pollution and the noise pollution, not to mention the danger to swimmers, clammers, other boaters. This is going to destroy the resource that it is this commission's duty to protect. Last, this application is premature. Number one, for the reason that I just gave you, that they don't have a clue how many boats are going to be at this dock. Secondly, this subdivision, which has been approved, is now under appeal, subject of litigation. I suggest, given the clear impact, negative impact that this pier is going to have, that it's appropriate to wait until there's some certainty with respect to whether or not the subdivision is going to go forward. And lastly, there is an additional issue for this subdivision. And although it may not seem to be something under the purview of the Conservation Commission to consider, again, I suggest it is in the context of whether or not this has been prematurely brought before you. And that is that Wareham has an effluent problem, which I'm sure you're all aware of. Due to that effluent problem, and that's stormwater and sewer. Due to that problem, there is a moratorium on tying into the Wareham sewer system. It's likely that it's going to be several $1 million that have to be spent to rectify that situation. There are currently, in addition to the city of Bourne, or the town of Bourne, and 10 other projects which have been approved by the city, which cannot go forward right now because of the moratorium. There are an additional series of projects, including Reese's project, which are simply in a queue. They can't go forward until all of these other projects, if and when a moratorium is over, if and when the capacity is expanded adequately to proceed with these other projects, only then can they proceed to tie in to the sewer system for Wareham.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to clarify something. I am a sewer commissioner. These projects have been approved before the moratorium was settled, before the moratorium. This capacity was already considered before the moratorium went on, so all the projects have been approved for discharge into the sewer system. There's nothing right now of any major being held because of the moratorium. This project was approved before that. We have capacity to handle it. I'm off topic, I know that, but I wanted to clarify that as a sewer commissioner, that was an incorrect statement. But
I appreciate that, and I appreciate being corrected. However, the most recent information that I had was that they were still on a queue.
they are on a queue of approved projects.
I agree with that statement. What I'm saying is they can't proceed with tying into the sewer until all of the ones ahead of them go forward.
They've already been approved. There's a list of what's been approved. They're approved.
I will not argue with you since you are on the sewer commission and I know better than to do that. Therefore, I will go back to the other two reasons why this is totally premature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on this project? Thank you.
Hi. Some of you are familiar, some of you not.
Please identify yourself.
I shall. Thank you. My name is Mary Oliveira. You want me to spell that?
Please.
Oliveira.
Thank you.
And, I'm sorry, 6 Fairview Lane, which is a couple of stones throw from the Friary property. And I probably have seen every pier that was mentioned by my neighbor being erected on that whole area. And mention was made, it's a very small area now that's left without another single pier, quadruple pier, what's the term for 7 boats. There's no room for this anymore. My neighbor spoke in referring to legal stipulations, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm speaking from the heart. I've been there for over 50 years. And I walk the beach. Mr. Pichette and I have met many times, and those of you who are familiar with the area, that little bit that's left is shrinking. And what's to prevent, in another year or two, of somebody else saying, oh, there's another 100 feet left. Can I have my pier too? Why not? The more the merrier. There's just so many negative things that would be attributed to this area, and you are the Conservation Commission to conserve and protect. Over the years, I have witnessed people doing things in the dead of night to avoid being observed. In the middle of the day, No one was looking. Hey, I can do that. We're in this mode of instant gratification. Yeah, I want a boat. Give me over there. I'll press the button. They'll lower it for me. I'll get somebody else to clean up, throw all the debris all over the place. Boaters are not known to be specifically neat and clean. I was a boater, but I never had a pier, which would have been very convenient. We chose with our children to row out, to wet our fannies, to be on a mooring, so that we wouldn't disrupt the beautiful area that I live in, that many of us live in. So please think, if you were there, would you want this to go in? That's all I can say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And by the way, who would maintain it? The incentive is gone once the property is sold. Who would maintain it? The association? Oh, there isn't any, that's right. Thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anybody else want to comment on this project? We are going to, I see someone standing. Thank you. Please identify yourself.
Madam Chair, thanks for recognizing me. I'm Thomas Dunny of 12 Sayers Point Road.
And you're going to be asked to spell your last name.
I have to go a little slower than that. I don't write that fast.
Donoghure.
And the first name again?
Thomas,
Thomas. And the address?
12 Sayers Point Road.
Okay. Thank you.
I've owned a house in Wareham for 10 years, and I've been recently selected as the president of the Sayers Point Association. Tonight, we have 8 homeowners here regarding this pier because we're concerned about how tight it is there and the people that are swimming there all the time, kayaking, walking, birding. It's a very busy, busy waterfront. And just some process questions. Would the DMF report be on the website?
It's not on the website, but we can certainly provide that. If I get an email address or a phone number or something, I can certainly get that to you.
Okay, thank you. And a process question on the notifications. There's a residence right across from the property, Jane McKenzie. I don't know if she's been notified. We went through this at the planning board. She was not notified, but it is on the list of residents to be notified.
We have the cards.
I do. I just want to see what the list says.
Yeah, we got a 100-foot list from Lot B, map 4, which is the 42 Robinwood lot. We have to permit this, obviously, with the current property configuration the way it is. And so everything is referenced to Lot B and 42 Robinwood and that land court certificate. So that is, so, you know, that's the lot that the 100-foot list was generated from, not the entire 3 lots. Just the one that the pier is on.
The lot that has the pier on. So that
Correct.
became the center point for the assessors to give you your abutter list.
Correct. And I added, you'll see I added in one name because it just touched the property line, and I thought that was a little unfair, so I added that abutter in personally.
Who was that name again?
What was the name?
Aaron?
Aaron.
Or it's in the address trust,
Yeah, it just says 32 Robinwood LLC.
32 Robinwood LLC, yep.
Added.
But what is the one
I'm
that
talking
you're...
about Jane McKenzie. It's on the map here, and she's 18 feet from the property.
Is she,
This house here.
Her address, do you know what it is?
Yeah, so each of the shaded lots are the ones that were identified as being 100-foot abutters.
Somebody else, that's somebody that he wrote in. It's not the Jane McKinney.
So if there's someone there that's not shaded, then they weren't included. So I don't know if it's that or,
Well, she is shaded
okay.
on your map.
Then we sent a certified mail notice.
but she's not in your list, in your application.
Well, whoever the property owner that the assessor's office has listed is what they would have been given for information. If the assessor's office wasn't accurate, then the applicant wouldn't know that. So they have to go by what the information is given to them from the assessor's office.
Correct. And we went through this with the planning board, and the applicant's aware this person wasn't notified at that time. So the house is 18 feet from their property. The front door is on Robinwood Road, but I think her address is 8, the side street there. So that's our concerns, and there's plenty of neighbors here that can follow me up to the microphone, but it's a safety issue, and it does seem very premature to ask for this right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. We are going to continue waiting for comments from the harbor master. Mr. Bichette will make sure that Mr. Buckminster is contacted so he can provide comments on the project. So
Continue to what date do you want it?
I would say 2 weeks would be sufficient for Gary to respond to us.
September 21st?
I would think that would be enough time, yes.
If not, we'll continue it again, so
Move to continue to September 21st.
I have a motion to continue until September 21st.
Second.
And a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
Thank you all so much.
Here on the 21st.
We will see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, at 6:30 p.m. On a notice of intent for Robert Charles Malone, trustee of care of Charles Purdy, Post Office Box 836, West Wareham, Massachusetts, to construct an addition and to install a new septic system located on Assessor's Map 76, Lot 8, 79 Blackmore Pond Circle, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to represent this project? Please come forward and identify yourselves. Yes, do you have the abutter cards?
I turn my butter card in. Oh, with me? There should be a copy in every one of those folders. You asked for it, you got it.
What she's asking about is the green return receipts from the certified mailings that went to the abutters.
I have a copy of them. Is that sufficient?
Yep.
Okay. I do have them with me. May take a second to get them.
All right.
I brought them. That's the letter. That's the letter. All the abutters were notified and one returned because they had moved, and it's actually his daughter who lives across the street. I did sign for it the other day to get it, but I do have all the copies. Here they are.
Thank you.
So you don't have any of the receipts that would have been returned? You didn't get any of these
No,
back
sir. I
out
have
of all
nothing.
these?
I sent every one of them out, and everybody who had received them, of course, I live around the corner, they know about it, and they told me, yeah, I got it, so I never got no returns from the post office. I have those when I sent it out. That's it.
Okay.
And please identify yourself.
I'm Charles Purdy, P. Purdy Construction.
Thank you. Mr. Burchett will read to the project.
Can I get his name?
Huh?
Get the others.
Oh, and your name.
Robert Malone, trustee of property at 79 Black.
Robert, okay.
It's all right, long night.
So the project site is at 79 Blackmore Pond Circle, and the project involves the construction of an addition and upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to Blackmore Pond. A 12 by 27 foot L-shaped addition is proposed, approximately 43 feet from the edge of the retaining wall along the pond. Also proposed is a new Title V nitrogen-reducing septic system. The new septic system would be located up close to the road at the furthest point from the pond on the site, but some of this still would be in the buffer zone to that pond area. Silt fence and straw wattles are proposed between the work and the resource area. I would recommend hay bales or compost filter tubes instead of the straw wattles for a little more stability. The site is a relatively flat site and there are no grade changes proposed. We did not get a DEP file number for this project at this time, so I would have to recommend a continuance of the hearing until we get the DEP file number for the project. But other than that, I didn't have any issues with what's being proposed.
Charles, is there anything you'd like to add to that description?
All the documents have been filed, and I guess apparently DEP didn't send that one in to you all, but I have got it all done. Everything's in place, and the suggestions of the hay bales and the silt screen and the tubulars was already figured in to be done that way. It will be done that way.
Okay.
All the framing and all the cutting of materials be done towards the road, not near the water.
Questions? Denise?
No questions at this time.
Michael?
Just to get a clarification of where this project is located, it didn't look like it was staked that well, but it looked like there were some huge stakes, if that makes any sense. Is that where these septic tanks are going to be located on the site?
I went over the other day in the rain to get them staked out, and that's where the additions are going to be. I marked that out, and I marked out for, as you asked me, for the leach field only. The tank is in between that, and as you look at your plans you have, Jim, you should see it right there. On the,
So the 4 tall stakes by the road is where the leaching field.
It's gonna
The
be.
2 tall stakes closer
Correct.
to the house is where the extension's going to go.
Okay, so, because that was what I was basically asking, because there was like these huge stakes.
yeah, I couldn't, I was raining, I was soaked, and I was just trying, I didn't want to take my hand off and be honest with you.
These like little small stakes with like flags on them.
That way where you drive by, you definitely know where it is. It ain't gonna be, no
Yeah, and I'm
hidden,
seeing these
just,
like really tall stakes, like, wait a minute, and it's flat.
this way you ain't gotta get out and you can take a look from the street and you get out in the rain. I was trying to be gentleman about it.
And it did look like that's where it was probably was going to be located.
Yeah.
And, it was like,
That was the leaching field, and I did not stake out for the 5-foot over dig, and I did stake out for the house along with it. As you can see, it only brings it out to square the house off for the bump out. That's all it did.
all right. Okay, that was all. Thank you.
Okay.
Carol?
No questions at this time.
The proposed addition to the house is along the side of the house and toward Blackmore Pond Circle, correct?
Yeah, just
An
towards
L-shaped
the stroke.
addition. So the leaching field, you'll be parking on top of that?
Part of it, but there is a proposed 2-car parking site already on the bottom of your plan. You look to the right, there's a spot which says a proposed 2-car parking spot.
Oh, yeah, I see it there, where the
It's on
tree...
the lower left hand. It says
you
proposal
be-
driveways in area, 2-car, 10 by 12 parking
You'll be
spaces.
removing the trees in order to have the parking?
Well, I need them to remove the trees for the whole project type of thing, because we're gonna be in the septic system, you're gonna be in the leaching field, and you're gonna be in the corner of the house.
So all those 5 trees will be gone?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, every tree I see on the map, on the plan, will be gone.
All the trees, well, all the ones in the front, none in the back, nothing in the back, but all, up by where the corner of the house is,
Yeah.
the addition, and where the septic tank's gonna be, and up in the leaching field area, and of course, the 2 of them in the parking spot.
Okay,
Trees near the pond won't be touched.
thank you.
And the ones that are there right now, if you know what I mean, they could take the house out before we get there.
Okay, is there anybody here who'd like to comment on this project? We will have to continue it because we do not have a DEP filing.
Is there any way I can expedite this DEP filing, or do I need to go do something with this, or? I just have to keep waiting?
You might want to contact that office and ask what the delay is, you know, there might,
That's the one in Lakeville?
yeah.
I'll be up there tomorrow. Okay.
Okay,
Now, if I bring the DEP to you, at that point, will this project be approved?
Nope.
No, it has to be continued because it has to be voted on at a meeting, so it has to wait till the next meeting.
the next meeting's the 21st.
Okay.
Move to continue to September 21st.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstains. We're continued until the 21st. DEP files.
Thank you.
We have continued hearings. Edward R. Harris. At 2530 Cranberry Highway. We have a new plan. Please come forward and identify yourselves, please.
My name
I
is
have
Robert DeWar
pictures.
with Bracken Engineering. Up there is Ed
You're-
Harris, and we have Paul Revere here
Excuse
as
me.
well.
Kids adorable. I love red hair.
Your name again, Paul?
Revere.
Paul Revere. Your name? Just open that one.
Okay.
All set?
All set. Please, Mr. Bichette. Your turn.
So this project is at 2530 Cranberry Highway, and this is an after-the-fact filing for site work and placing fill in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland at this site. A large quantity of fill has been placed in the buffer zone to the wetland to raise the grade of the property, in some areas by as much as 10 feet. The fill was brought in to flatten the sloped site to create a more level area. And the proposed plan we have in front of us proposes to create a more gradual slope and take that fill out of there, some of the additional fill out to create a more natural grade, which is going to be a 3-to-1 slope. Currently, there's a very steep drop-off from the top of the filled area down to the natural grade below. Once the new slope is achieved, then that will be stabilized by planting the slope according to the detail on the project plan. And they are also proposing a dry well to pitch water from this flat area into to handle runoff from this graded area. Any of the excess material would be removed from the site or stockpiled outside the buffer zone to the wetland. Erosion control will be installed at the toe of the slope to contain the work area. We do have a DEP file number for this project. We had continued this meeting at the last, this hearing at the last meeting because of an issue with a butter notification The applicant has resent out the abutter notices to the appropriate abutters. So at this point, I would recommend the approval of this project according to this revised plan, with the added conditions that the slope be stabilized according to the planting scheme, and that the plantings be monitored to ensure survivability, and that the dry well is installed for the runoff, which is actually indicated on the plan anyway.
How long for monitoring the plants?
I mean, I would recommend for a year, so that way you know that they've survived for a
Thank you.
full growing season.
I just wanted to put a time frame on that. Robert, would you like to add anything?
Excuse me. Again, my name is Robert DeWar here with Bracken Engineering for Ed Harris, the owner of the property. As Dave just recapped, Ed had provided some fill on the property, was asked to stop unknowingly filling within the buffer zone. We've been brought in just to permit the fill, as well as, provide a more gentle slope and take care of any of the stormwater, as shown in the plan that would be directed towards the dry well. Since the last meeting, the dry well has been pulled further away from the edge of the bank, and with the area up above, which is outside the 100-foot buffer zone, sloping away from the edge of that bank as well, just to further reduce any stormwater from potentially running over that bank. With that said, now that the proper abutters have been notified, we would like to request approval.
Questions? Denise?
No questions.
Michael?
No questions?
Carol?
No questions.
Anybody? I have none. Anybody in the audience would like to comment on this project? Mr. Muniz?
My name is Jim Manise, and I'm a butter to the property, 2526 Granbury Highway. I have no problems with the plan as submitted for a residential use, I believe it is. And as long as it's going to be a residential use, not commercial or industrial, then I will not speak against it. And, but if it changes, I think that should be part of the conditions, that it's for residential. Otherwise, the drainage has to be done to accommodate a change in use from residential to commercial industrial.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, there's been no indication or proposal to be a commercial site. If it were, then it certainly would have to go before the appropriate approving authorities to get that change of use approved. So that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you plan to leave that area stony like it is?
No, eventually it's going to get loomed and seeded once I recoup some money from this issue that I have now.
Okay. So I think I'm going to add that to the order of conditions. The site be loaned and seeded.
Well, I think that was part of what was described to me. I don't know that it's necessarily on the plan, but...
I didn't see it on the plan. Is any other comments on this project? I see none.
Move to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed. Nope, we have to vote on it.
Got excited.
Yeah, I got
It's
it.
been a long process.
I move to accept the projects with, per the modifications and the new plan that has been submitted, with the stabilization per the planting scheme, and at least monitoring for viability for one full growing season. The excess material is being removed, and the site is going to be loamed and seeded.
And dry well installed.
And the dry well installed. Okay, that's 5, okay. That's the motion.
So that's the motion with standard, and a second standard order conditions with 5 conditions added to it, as stated. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to
Opposed?
abstain.
And you are abstaining.
Abstaining.
The reason she is abstaining, she has not had a chance to review the minutes of the prior meeting, and therefore she is abstaining. So we have 3-0-1. Don't do any work until you hear from Mr. Pichette, but you're done.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we have to address the fine.
Oh, yes. We should have done that before we closed the hearing. The $300 fine, I read the reason. Any work requiring Conservation Commission approval in wetlands or in 30, 50-foot no-work zone plus full restoration and a $300 fine. Starting it beforehand
So
for
moved.
violating.
Does it have to be a motion
Yep.
for that?
Do we need a motion or just a
Yes, we need a motion.
Yes.
I heard it.
So moved.
second?
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. I had a note here. Violation. After the fact filing. I'm sorry, folks. I'm getting tired. Okay. Sign it.
Street.
You sign it, though.
Yes. Oh, I know.
Okay. Next hearing is John Boone. Safe Harbor. Thank you. Please come forward and identify yourselves. Oh,
Thank you.
he's new. We'll share.
My name's Tom Pazurski from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors in Plymouth, and I am the Senior Project Manager and the Marine Services Director for the company, and I'm representing Safe Harbors tonight.
Spell your last name, please.
Pozerski.
John Boone from Safe Harbor.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Bichette.
So this project site is at 18 Green Street, Safe Harbor Marina, or what most people might recall the Onset Bay Marina. And the project involves the reconstruction of a bulkhead, which would be the coastal bank, the reconstruction of a concrete pad and boat racks in the buffer zone to the coastal bank, land under the ocean, and within a coastal flood zone. The existing concrete bulkhead, which is approximately 330 feet in length, is to be replaced with a steel sheet pile bulkhead. The existing concrete pad and boat racks inside the bulkhead would also be replaced. The existing bulkhead would be removed in sections and replaced with the steel sheet piles. Once in place, a new crushed stone base would be installed and a new concrete pad poured within the bulkhead. The new steel boat storage racks would be installed in the same general area as they currently exist. And new stormwater structures are also being incorporated into the design. The plan that we have in front of us that was submitted did have some modifications for that drainage structure. That's why we got these updated plans. And we had not received comments from Mass Division of Marine Fisheries, which we have since received. And we do have a DEP file number for the project. So based on the revised plans, I would recommend the approval of the project with the conditions that the stormwater structures be installed according to the most recent plan that was submitted. And I think that was pretty much it. Mass DMF didn't have too much comments on the project, except to say that if possible, could the work be done from the upland side, which I think that's pretty much what was proposed or envisioned.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's it.
Thank you. Tom, anything to add?
No, Dave did a very good summary. We added deep sump catch basins, that's the revision. And then we did angle the racks, as you can see, to allow for better access. But we do have a full stormwater management system, and we did provide a full DEP compliant stormwater submittal with a maintenance program. And the one thing that we did add to the plan set was a construction sequence. Projects like this, I think it helps the boards, the commissions, the applicant, the contractor understand our intention for how the project needs to proceed in an environmentally responsible manner.
Thank you. Questions? Denise?
You stated that the maintenance procedures were clearly stated and a checklist was provided. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Thank you.
Michael?
No questions.
Thank you.
Carol?
No questions.
Sandy? I like the idea of stone underneath the boats as they're stored for better drainage, as opposed to the concrete pads that are there. Okay, I have nothing else to add. Anybody here would like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing?
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
And a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, the hearing is closed.
Motion to accept with the standard order of conditions and the new, and per the stormwater modifications per the new plan. Is there anything else, Dave?
Not really, other than I would add a condition that if there's any work that needs to be done from a floating barge, which, probably won't be the case, but if so, then that be done during high tides for the water depth issue.
Plus or minus 2 hours of high tide.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. We have one abstention, so we have 301.
Thank you.
Before you
Okay.
start any work, see Mr. Pichette for your paperwork. Okay.
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 All right,
Thank you so much. Thanks for your help, Dave. We appreciate it.
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
David.
Take it easy.
Did we give a signature for Harris? Did I sign something?
Yes.
I signed it.
One that you abstained?
No, Harris, the one with the sloping in the backyard.
Yeah, we signed.
Okay, signed. All right. Go. Next hearing, Scott Green, 17 Murphy Street. Okay.
Dave, was this one just continued from last week? Was this one continued from last week? Okay. We didn't discuss it at all, right?
No, thank you.
They had requested continuance. The first hearing was April 20th, 2022. Please identify yourself as representing the projects.
Good evening, Attorney Jillian Morton, 184 Main Street. I represent the applicant, Scott Green.
And my name is Mike Pimentel. I'm with JC Engineering.
And I'm Scott Green, the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
Another one of these?
Nope, we're all set, thank you.
Okay, so the project site is at 17 Murphy Street in the Swiss Beach area, and the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling in the buffer zone to salt marsh, coastal bank, coastal beach, coastal dune, within a coastal flood zone and partially within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. A 32 by 62-foot dwelling elevated on pilings is proposed, and this would be approximately 41 feet from the top of the coastal bank, about 48 feet from the coastal dune, and 55 feet from the edge of the salt marsh, and within flood zone VE elevation 18 and elevation 20. There's an existing foundation on the site from a small cottage that once existed there that is to be removed. That disturbed area is to be replanted with native plants identified on the plan. The proposed driveway would be a pervious material, and infiltration structures are proposed to handle runoff from the dwelling. The dwelling is proposed to be serviced by town water and sewer. Hay bales and silt fence are proposed to be installed along the 30-foot no-activity zone line. This is a fragile location, as you've heard from the description, and this is a very large structure proposed for this site. And I do question how this project would be accomplished and still maintain the 30-foot no-activity zone, so maybe that can be discussed. Also, I don't seem to have comments from Mass Natural Heritage. Did you guys get a response?
Yeah, we did, Dave. They issued a approval letter back on August 4th. I can give that to you now. I have a copy at the office.
Okay. Thank you. And the plan that you have in front of you, we just did get yesterday morning, so it is a relatively recent plan submission. So if commission members want to have time to digest that, that's a reason to recommend a continuance. Or if the commission's comfortable with the project, then you can discuss that as well. So my one concern was whether or not there were a comment from Natural Heritage, which there is, and again, how this project can be put in with 30-foot no activity zone staying intact.
Who would like to take it? Any comments, any additions?
Sure, Madam Chair, we can speak to Mr. Bridgette's comments regarding the 30-foot buffer, because that was something that I represented him through the variance process with the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I know he was vocal at that time. So it was important for us to work on that and make sure that it was something that would be maintained. The applicant will be the general contractor on this project. He has his own license, and he'd be the one actually operating the machine. So as far as that operation, it's not going to be going to another contractor who's has not gone through this process to understand the town's concerns regarding how close that is. I think that we worked pretty well with what we had on the site, and we're willing to hear other comments or other concerns regarding things that the Conservation Commission would want. If things need to get changed, we certainly understand that.
Okay. Questions, Denise?
The first thing I noticed when I went out is that there's all kinds of boats and kayaks, and everything is just in front of all this property. Does it belong to you? I mean, why is this?
I can speak to that if I may, Scott, and we spoke about that. That's actually other neighbors have boats there, kayaks, something that was also discussed at the zoning board. That's actually in front on the beach.
Right.
It's partially on his property, but a lot of it's the beach there. And it's been like that historically for a while. So we spoke about that, and it wouldn't necessarily be a problem for Scott, those being there. Unless that's a problem
for conservation.
If it's a problem for conservation, then he would follow that.
Definitely is a problem for conservation.
You know, me liability-wise, I see that as a problem too, just having someone else's boats. But the property had an interesting history. Through the zoning board, I had to break essentially a merger on the grandfathering, because this old building that you see here was a cottage, and it was going through through the zoning board of appeals to be able to make it bigger, and the owners actually just became ill, so they weren't able to actually come to fruition with that project. So we were able to get this essentially approved through the ZBA. So they did speak to that, and if the conservation would want that moved, I'm sure that the applicant would help assist doing that in the best way.
So the
It
old
has been
foundation
there.
is coming out.
The old, yep, just as Mr. Pochette said, that old foundation would come out, and then the native species plantings would go where that is, in the front. And if you've walked through there, it's kind of pretty wooded. Yeah, me too. In office wear, so I shouldn't have done that, but, so it's really just stones kind of around. It's not like you'd see a full foundation.
And how does this 100-foot dune offset affect any of this with conservation? Oh, how does the 100-foot dune offset affect conservation?
Well, it's shown to indicate the buffer, but it is still an issue to be addressed because the coastal dune is a resource area, and any work within 100 feet of the coastal dune is not supposed to inhibit the dune's ability to migrate potentially further back. So that is, I think, another question, because you're going to now have a house there.
Structure in the dune.
And obviously, the individual's not going to want to have sand accumulating under the pilings of his home, I wouldn't expect. So that would be something the commission has to take into consideration.
Okay, and somebody or somehow it was mentioned that there's a species that we need to deal with?
Well, that was just a discussion of where the foundation's going to be removed. The proposal was to replant that disturbed area with native plant species.
But I thought there was some type of critter or something living. There's no protected animal or anything in this area?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, there may be, but again, we have a letter from Mass Natural Heritage saying the project would not adversely impact that. So.
Okay, all right. I think I would like time to review the project and the letter, and that I would feel more comfortable waiting, not moving on, accepting this tonight, just continuing it so I could have time to digest everything that we just received tonight.
Michael, questions?
Again, kind of the same thing Denise feels, but just one question here. This proposed E1 pump station with concrete ballast, again, is that something that probably should be a little further back off the the 100 dune offset, at least even further back as possible here off some of these lines? Again, I know we're going to have probably more time, but still.
The engineer might be able to speak to this, but there could be a stub already in that location, so it might not be something that can be relocated. It's just where it is.
Yeah, well, exactly. There's actually an existing sewer manhole right across from the E1 station that we're proposing, so it just made the most sense to put the E1 there so that we can have a connecting line from that E1 to that existing manhole. That was
Something that may just be...
And to be honest with you, we're going to confer with Guy Campina at the sewer department and ask for his recommendation as far as the E1 pump station. He may want us to move it farther upstream, downstream rather, and not put it here. So if that is in fact the case, then yes, we would be moving it farther away from the coastal dune.
Any idea where the stub exists today?
No, we don't.
So Guy might be able to tell you where it was.
Yeah, he will.
It's hard to believe it's probably up to closer to Wonkinko, but, okay.
Yeah, that was all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Carol?
How many bedrooms is this going to be?
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms? Thank you.
Here's a question for you. How are you going to walk around the house to get to the water without really going into the 30-foot? I mean, there's barely space, right, by the gravel road to walk around the house? You're going to be putting in stones or a pathway or anything like that?
I wasn't going to be putting a pathway out to the beach. I wasn't. I didn't think I'm allowed to even go in that area.
No, I was just wondering, the house is so wide, it barely fits between the 30-foot no activity zones on both sides, right? Or am I misreading this?
From the edge, from the perimeter of the house to the, let's say, approximately 10 feet out or so, it's only about a 1-foot differential in grade.
Okay. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
the decks, there are no steps coming off the decks?
I don't have any steps, I don't believe, off the
No,
deck.
there are no steps being proposed for the deck.
The deck close to the water, there's steps on the deck?
Oh, in the front, yeah,
Front,
yeah.
Did we submit the rendering for them? I don't know if that'd be
No,
helpful. Okay.
no, we did
We
not.
normally don't have to do that, but we had a rendering for zoning board, so you could kind of see the decks in the front of the property.
Is there any idea how you're going to keep the no activity zone? No activity. I mean, how are you going to identify where is your limit of what you can do in the yard versus what you can't? How are you planning to identify that 30-foot no-work zone?
Well, there's that tree line over there, right?
Yeah.
We open to suggestions, I would say.
Right.
If
There
whether
is-
it's fencing or something else that the commission would look for.
Well, on the
Yeah,
east side, you really are right up against the gravel driveway, so there's not much space between the house.
What about,
30.
what about a post and rail fence? Would you be amendable to something like that?
It would be, we would be looking at something like that that would say, hey, no cutting, no trees, no nothing.
Posted.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that would be more likely the west side where you do have the tree line. The east side, your 30-foot is right there at the gravel driveway, so there's you're not going to do a lot of activity there. And in the front, wow.
This red line is no activity
So
zone,
then-
too.
Okay,
Okay.
this is very busy.
It
So
is.
you're basically clearing most of the lot, where all the trees and everything are now, and then putting this home 22 feet in the air?
Yeah, from the erosion control line that runs parallel to the 30-foot buffer zone line,
Right.
any work from that point going towards the street essentially, yes, would have to be,
Completely clear.
removed.
It's like 2/3 of the lot. I would say if you walk through there, people use this as a cut-through all the time. So you probably saw a little bit of a path, kind of where to the old foundation was. So putting some sort of fencing right there, like suggested, actually will make this less disturbed than what people are doing currently, in my opinion, if you made that block zone.
They're cutting through where the old
Yeah,
foundation is.
there was jokes that was like where they would party and, you know, people
There
walk
was
through there.
evidence of that.
There's that is what one of the zoning board members mentioned,
Cans.
so I'm just bringing it up. But, yeah, he could fence that off and make it, again, so it wouldn't be touched, whatever signs were necessary.
All the way out to here.
Any other questions? Do we want to,
And just need time to digest this.
I think now that we have the plan, it might be worth another visit back to the site.
Yeah, I was there again today.
Because when was the last time we visited? In April?
Yeah, no, I was there today, I was walking around.
I didn't go back, but this is our first hearing on this site.
Correct. I didn't realize that the property went all the way out.
But those are trees, it's treed there now, right? Is the house staked between the trees?
No, not that I'm aware of, right, Scott?
But
You don't have
There are
this-
some stakes out
There are
there.
Yeah, there are some out by the,
The stakes have moved
Yeah, that's what,
towards, they've moved in favor of conservation, put it that way,
Yep.
towards the road.
well, that's right. The house actually did move since the original plan.
Yeah.
And I believe, Dave, the stakeout that we did was based off of the old
That's the old. yeah.
plan.
Okay, 'cause there
Okay,
were-
so
So-
can you get that updated?
I was going to say, we would have to go out there and update the stakes. We'll have to remove the old stakes for the house, perhaps the driveway, whatever we staked out before would have to get modified.
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be good.
Yeah, okay, then we'll have to do that prior to your arrival on site, which would be when do you anticipate?
Not tomorrow.
Good, good.
Usually a couple days before the next hearing.
Okay, well, that's manageable, sure. We'll certainly be out there
Right, I mean,
before
that's
that.
about, we tend to visit it,
I usually go the Monday before.
yeah, a couple days before, Monday before the hearing.
That's all you need, that's fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's nobody, no other comments? If not,
Motion to close the hearing?
nope, continue
Continue the
Sorry,
hearing.
motion to continue the hearing
until,
until 9:21?
Yep.
21.
I have a motion to continue until September 21.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, we are continued. No, you know, this is
Okay,
the
fine,
first
yes.
hearing we've had on it.
Dave,
Oh,
can I
okay.
get a copy of this?
We haven't missed anything.
Is that the one?
That's Mike's.
We've had a request of Paula Hamilton to continue until September
That
21.
actually already was continued.
Okay.
That date, I just forgot to take it off the agenda. Thank you.
Continued, so no voting on it. We have a, Wareham MA3 LLC, which is a continuance until, I don't know, they,
9/21.
yep.
9/21.
I need a motion.
Move to continue Wareham,
Fairing Hill,
Fairing Hill until 9:21?
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstained. Opposed, abstained, we continued. Then we have Richard Grady. Is there anybody here for that project? Did they,
Go ahead, go ahead. Why not?
Until you review the site.
Thanks.
so I guess we'll need a continuance for Richard Grady?
Yes.
The 67.
Can somebody make that
Move that
motion?
we continue the NOI for Richard Grady until 9:21?
Yes,
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Continued until 9:21.
That was third.
We have certification of compliances.
Pending review at a later date.
Let's see. So the first one that's on the list, I went to that site and have some issues with that project in terms of it not being completed as far as I'm concerned, so I'm recommending we just hold off on that one for now. I'm going to revisit that with the engineer and go over some of the issues there. That was for a project on Over Jordan Road. The next one is at 42 Charlotte Furnace Road. That was for a septic upgrade. That has been completed according to the plan, so I would recommend the issuance of that certificate of compliance.
Ooh, excuse me. So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstained. Opposed, abstained. God, I'm tired. Okay, we're going to sign our papers.
Here's this one to sign.
COC.
The last certificate of compliance was for a solar project, one of the Borrego solar projects on the Makepeace property. They refer to this particular site as 160 Tyhonet Road. That project has been completed according to the plan, so I would recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance for that project as well.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Done. Jessica, your turn, come on up. So you've had another meeting you sat through, and thank you very much for sitting here with us.
Of
Do you have any questions for us?
Not at this time.
Do we have any questions for her? She's been...
I don't have any questions. I guess I guess just a comment of when is it potentially possible to recommend her appointment?
Right now.
Okay, then I would,
It's on the agenda. discussion, appointments, interviews, and reappointments. So, any of the questions? Someone willing to make a motion?
Sarah has a question.
I don't remember her full name.
Here.
Okay. I move that we
Recommend.
Jessica Parr? That's correct, yep. For appointment as an associate member of the Conservation Commission.
That's the motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I will be sending a letter to the Board of Selectmen with our recommendation. You will be asked to come before them for an interview. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you for having the patience to sit
Through another long
Through
one.
another long one.
Actually, tonight,
We still got a couple things to go. We got a couple things still to go, right?
These chairs are much more comfortable.
Okay.
I was hoping so.
They really are.
Filing fees.
The filing fees.
I sent everybody the revised
Yep.
fees. How do we go about implementing them?
I think we talked at the last meeting that we need a public hearing to discuss for public comment on these proposed fee increases.
Correct.
How do we make that happen? Just put it on our agenda?
Well, what I would recommend for something like this is to have a hearing separately from our regular meeting, because you can see our agendas are pretty lengthy. And you do want to try to hopefully get some public comment. And some folks may not want to sit here for this long, like this young lady did, then to sit and comment on this proposal. So if we could come up with a night that people feel comfortable with, that we could schedule a separate public hearing, I would recommend that. But it's ultimately up to the commission. If you want to do this at a regular meeting night, then that's fine too. You guys make the call. But we do have to have a public hearing.
Our agendas are so full, and sometimes they go so late, which, I mean, we've been pretty lucky recently, but we've had some nights that were really, really long. Personally, I'd prefer to do it on a separate night and just do that one thing, because I think that's going to take a lot of discussion. I think people are going to want to have input, both pro and con.
If they come to it.
If they come to it.
Now, is this public hearing, is this something you're going to want televised? Which means we'd have to make accommodations with WCTV
Yes.
to record it?
Yes.
So maybe we do this virtually, do a Zoom.
I mean, again, that's totally up to the commission, how you want to do
It's
it.
hard to get this room.
Right. It's hard to sit in a kitchen chair too, but for one night.
Well, Zoom would give more
It would give more
opportunity
opportunity to more people
to comment on it.
Yes, I agree.
Any idea? I mean,
I mean,
I don't mind doing it either way, personally.
I mean, I could do it at a meeting, I could do it on a Zoom,
because we do it on Zoom,
More people will participate, I think.
but again, we would need
you
someone
really
from
think people are gonna, I don't know.
WCTV to record it, and they're committed most nights to one thing or another.
Well, if it's on Zoom, it's a little easier for them to be part of it, because we could select a night where they're not super busy.
You tell me one of those nights they don't have meetings.
Well, I'd have to confer with Mr. White and whoever else is dealing with that. But
I mean, we've had some light agendas. I don't know what the 21st is gonna look like, but
you see all the continuances we just had for the 21st? It's going to be a long meeting.
some of them will be continued again. We know they'll be continued again. I
Yeah,
don't know.
if you want to, kick around some dates and, come up with something that makes sense, you can.
See, Mondays. Planning is the second and fourth Monday.
Right.
Tuesdays are selectmen. Wednesdays are zoning and conservation. Thursday is school board
Is that it on Thursday? Just the school?
and sewer.
Sewer.
So sewers, we're talking first and third, second and fourth, so all I can think of is maybe the first and third Monday. I can't think of anybody who's using this room at that time, but would have to check with Patty.
I can do that, and then circulate an email to the members and see if a particular date.
Then how do we promote it to the general public?
Well, a public hearing has to be advertised in the local paper.
Yep.
And then, we can certainly try to promote it in other ways as well, whether it be through flyers or announcements at a selectman meeting or whatever the case may be.
If you can check with Patty to see this room is available for the first or the third. Yep.
You have 5 Thursdays and Fridays this month. I don't know if that helps.
Participating right off the bat. I like it. Gotta like that energy.
Well, Fridays, I think, are typically out.
No,
because-
Fridays are out.
Yeah, because the town,
5 Thursdays this month.
yeah.
5 Wednesdays? 5 Thursdays.
5 Thursdays.
So it's possible the 5th Thursday, that will give us 3 weeks to advertise it.
I won't be here.
I'm not gonna be here, well,
Okay, that puts that out. Denise needs to be here, it's her project.
You have 5 Mondays in October.
Yeah, let's pick a date in October, because I think, then we got town meeting coming up.
Town meeting's the fourth Monday. So see if we can do something probably the 3rd Wednesday
No.
of
We have
October.
a meeting that day.
We have
Huh?
a meeting that
We have a meeting.
I'm
that
sorry,
day.
3rd Monday of October.
3rd
be
Monday.
the 17th.
Okay.
So 10/17 is a possibility. We can advertise it and see if Mr. White's available to record us in this room on the 17th, if Patty says the room's available.
He says it's planning board.
I thought they were the 2nd and 4th.
The voice from behind the panel.
Yeah, so the 17th,
The Wizard of Oz.
so the 17th, I'll
Things
check
might work.
to see if the room's available and try to arrange for that date for this hearing.
Mr. White, would you be available on October 17th on a Monday? Ah,
Us
I'd
or
rather be at the fair.
This is as fun as a fair.
yeah, right. So,
Yeah, with
Okay.
participation, we could get, it could be a fair.
Also, remember that Faring Hill meeting on the 26th of September.
what,
Though it got moved from the 12th at 6 PM. Have they talked to you yet?
you mean, I thought I saw something come through, but
Neil
formally...
Price is supposedly doing a presentation again on the September 26th instead of the 12th at 6 PM, and we're supposedly invited to it.
I've not seen a formal
You have
request,
not gotten a formal request yet.
which means
Formal invitation.
when it comes, we would have to post it as a meeting. So we
Why do you
would,
need I mean, you know about the meeting, you know you're supposed to be invited, why can't we just?
no, if we have more than, if we have a quorum attend, we must post a meeting.
Well, that's, I mean, can't we post it?
Once we get our invitation,
We have to be invited first.
where is it? What time? On the 26th?
Okay. I know it's on the 26th. I know it's at 6 PM. Let me see where.
There's a planning board meeting. So we're invited to a planning board meeting to hear the presentation on Faring Hill.
Okay.
So, Mr. Pichette, will you please post an agenda for that?
And it's on the 26th.
What was it again? 26th?
26th at
9/26 at 6
p.m.
PM in this room with a joint meeting with planning board. to discuss Faring Hill. For a presentation on Faring Hill.
Right. That ought to be fun. That ought to be fun.
So, okay, I can certainly do that. We have continued that hearing on our own agenda to the 21st, so I guess we have to wait and see if they're going to just request a further continuance to wait till after that planning board meeting.
Could very well be. My concern is that it's been how many months?
It's been over a year
And
now.
therefore, how many of us have attended every meeting that had discussion of Faring Hill?
Well, for those that haven't, you got to go back and...
Yeah, but we have to go back to the very beginning and look at every single meeting and say who was missing what meeting. Didn't they, but we don't have the latest plan. Didn't they give planning a new set of plans and we don't have them?
No, the new set of plans hasn't been provided yet. It's still in process, so none of us have the new plans yet.
So when did this whole Faring Hill thing start? I mean, were we even on the commission at that time?
I was.
Yeah, I think most of you were. I don't know, Denise.
Wait a
if-
minute.
I know.
Wait.
Yeah, most of us were, I think. That started, what, June of last year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I just
think you
came
were- I
on in
think you
June.
were-
You were an associate, probably.
Just came on in June.
Because theoretically, we can't vote unless we've said we've attended or heard every single meeting in which there has been a
We've been at all the
discussion.
meetings where they've continued it.
Where is it?
I mean, to say we've been at every single meeting, it's a tough one, but I mean, you're right, I think,
Yeah, June 2nd, 2021.
maybe I don't get a bad memory after all. I just said June 20 last year. Cool.
Yep. I mean, didn't they refile with planning to start over again?
Yes.
Because they've missed, so many people miss, why can't they refile with us?
Well, it's not that they
I can't
can't.
force
It's just
them.
whether, yeah, we can't force them. So we have to wait to see what their thoughts are going to be on how they want to proceed.
I have thoughts. All right.
All right.
So that's on, now, who does that invitation go to, Dave? Right to you?
Well, typically we'd go to the chair
Okay, so it should go to Sandy?
or me or both. But if I get something, then I will forward it to the rest of the commission.
If I
If
get
Sandy
something, I'll
gets
do
it.
this.
If we attend that meeting and they make a presentation, we're not going to be voting on it that night?
No.
No.
We're just
No.
going to hear, we're going to hear the same thing planning is hearing.
Okay,
And discuss issues together on it.
okay.
So we will have input during discussions?
I hope
Yes.
so.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
I was figuring, anything happen on getting our nameplates or a penny of some type? Because people were looking at me again today, trooping around property.
I want a crown.
You want a crown? I'm gonna give you a
Yeah,
crown.
I gotta focus on getting those things taken care of.
And I have asked again where our minutes are. It's in the queue, but no one can tell me how long the queue is. So we will, from now on, be putting every one of our minutes, our meeting dates, on our list of meetings.
Okay.
How should I say? Review and approve meeting minutes, and we will list all of the meetings we've had since July, just in case one set of minutes comes to us, we've accommodated it on the agenda. Because I had my hands slapped by not putting a date of a specific meeting on the agenda. So we'll put every meeting on the agenda.
I'm confident that we'll have a set of minutes by the next meeting to
I'll
review.
put it this way. I've asked our liaison to work on this for us, that we are in a violation of open meeting laws because we're so late getting our July meetings.
That's Ron. Ron is our liaison, not Judy.
Well, Judy's been
No,
after.
Ron's not our liaison.
Ron is not our,
I asked Judy who our liaison was, and Judy said it was Ron
No.
Bessie.
Yeah.
She told me.
It's-
When?
When Carl was online talking to her at one point, just
Because-
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, unless
No,
they changed it,
No,
but
as far as I know,
Yeah, it
Judy
was-
is
it
our
was-
liaison because she's been checking our agenda, which is why she says, why don't you have meeting dates? And I said, well, why don't I have minutes?
As I said, I asked her, and she said it was Ron Bessie.
No.
I would check.
If I had my phone, I'd check the website, but I don't think so.
I have my phone. I'll look.
Do you have no, we'll check it when we get home, but I don't think so.
Yeah, she was our liaison.
She was, but from what I
Unless
they
understand,
may
Something
have changed things
changed.
up.
it's now
I
Ron.
heard nothing on any of the selectmen's meeting indicating a change.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
That's what I heard.
Okay, that
That's
is
what she
the
told
case.
me.
Then I will say, Judy, please speak to Ron because I want my minutes. See how personal I'm taking this? I want our minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked hard to
Well-
get ours all done.
We
Yeah.
had, we had an issue. We dealt with the issue, and now
Yes, I mean,
it's up to them
I
to.
looked at a zoning agenda, and they got minutes for someplace from 2020, and we still can't get, why are they getting their minutes? And we had to write them. Anyway, that's a sore point. I don't think the public needs to hear this anymore. Can someone say goodnight?
Move
Motion
to
to
close
close
the
the hearing.
hearing.
Second,
to adjourn the meeting.
I'm making a motion to adjourn. I heard a motion to adjourn the hearing. I heard a second, and it's 8:50. 8:50. All in favor?
aye.
Aye,
Opposed?
and have a good night.